Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the alien guards approach. They wore the blue armor of the Galactic Council and carried weapons that glowed with strange energy. His ship, the New Dawn, was small compared to the massive station floating in space ahead of them. The station was called Gateway 7, and every human ship had to stop here before entering Council space. "Captain, they're demanding full access to our cargo holds again," said his second officer, a young woman named Officer Han Bora. Her voice was tired. This was the third inspection in 2 days. "Let them board," Lee Hyun said quietly. He had learned not to argue. Arguments only made things worse for humans. The alien guards searched every corner of his ship. They opened containers that were already sealed and checked. They scanned the crew members like they were criminals. One guard, a tall creature with scales and 4 arms, pushed past Lee Hyun without even looking at him. In the Galactic Council, humans were nothing special. They were the youngest species, the weakest, the ones everyone could push around. 3 hours later, the guards finally left. Lee Hyun's ship was cleared to continue, but he felt the familiar burn of anger in his chest. 200 years ago, humanity had joined the Galactic Council with hope and excitement. They thought they would find friends among the stars. Instead, they found masters who treated them like children. On the other side of the galaxy, Ambassador Park Mirai walked into the council chamber. The room was huge, with seats rising in circles around a central platform. Representatives from 47 alien species sat in those seats. Ambassador Park walked to the human section, which was in the back, far from the center of power. Today was important. For the 47th time, humanity was asking for equal status in the council. For the 47th time, Ambassador Park knew they would say no. Councillor Vexithara, the leader of the council, was a Zenthari. His species looked like reptiles that walked on 2 legs. He had ruled the council for 60 years. To him, humans were babies playing at politics. "Ambassador Park," Vexithara said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You wish to speak about human rights again?" "Yes, Councillor," Park Mirai said. She kept her voice calm and professional.
"Humanity has been a member of this council for 200 years.
We have followed every rule. We have paid every tax. We have limited our military as you demanded. We ask only for the same rights as other species." Vexithara made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species is too young, too aggressive. You fight wars among yourselves. You consume your planet's resources without thinking. You live such short lives that you cannot understand the long view of galactic peace. We have not fought a war on Earth for 150 years, Ambassador Park said. 150 years is nothing, another counselor said. My species has known peace for 3,000 years. The vote was quick. 44 species voted against humanity. Only 2 voted in favor and 1 abstained. Ambassador Park left the chamber with her head high, but her heart was heavy. Nothing would ever change. The council would never see humans as equals. Back on Earth, Admiral Kang Do-yoon stood in the command center of the Human Defense Fleet. Around him, holographic displays showed the location of every human ship in space. There were not many. The council had strict rules about human military power. Earth was allowed only 500 military ships, and they had to be small. They had to use older technology. Council inspectors visited Earth shipyards regularly to make sure humans were not building anything too powerful. A communication came through on his private channel. It was marked urgent and encrypted. Admiral Kang opened it and read the message. His face turned pale. The message was from a human colony called Sejong 7. It was on the frontier, far from Earth. The colony was under attack. Raiders were hitting the settlement. Thousands of people were in danger. They needed help immediately. Admiral Kang sent the request to the Council's emergency response system. Surely they would send help. That was what the Council promised. Protection for all member species. 2 hours later, the response came back. Your request has been reviewed. The incident on Sejong 7 is not deemed a priority threat to galactic peace. Local forces should handle the situation. The Council offers its thoughts and sympathies. Admiral Kang tried calling again. He begged. He explained that the colony had no military forces. The raiders were killing civilians. Children were dying. The Council's answer did not change. By the time the nearest human ships arrived, it was too late. 12,000 people were dead. The colony was burned to ash. The raiders had escaped into deep space. Admiral Kang stood in the command center and looked at the reports. bodies, destroyed homes, families erased from existence, and the Council had done nothing. His private terminal beeped. Another encrypted message. This one was from Earth's global president. Admiral Kang read it and his hands began to shake. The message had only one line. Protocol Endgame is authorized. Begin Phase 1 immediately. Admiral Kang closed his eyes. After 200 years of humiliation, after 200 years of being treated like they did not matter, humanity was about to show the galaxy who they really were. The time for peace was over. Captain Lee Hyun received new orders 3 days after the Sejong 7 massacre. He was to return to Earth immediately. No explanation was given. His crew looked worried as they set course for home. Earth never recalled diplomatic ships without a good reason. When they arrived, Lee Hyun was not allowed to dock at the normal stations. Instead, military ships escorted the New Dawn to the moon. They landed on the dark side where no Council satellites could see them. Armed soldiers waited at the landing pad. Captain Lee Hyun? One soldier asked. Yes, come with us. Your crew must stay on the ship. Lee Hyun followed the soldiers into an elevator that went down, not up. The elevator descended for 10 minutes, down and down deep under the moon's surface. When the doors finally opened, Lee Hyun could not believe what he saw. The tunnel stretched ahead of him for miles. It was wide enough to drive 10 trucks side by side. Lights ran along the ceiling, illuminating a road that disappeared into the distance. Soldiers and workers moved everywhere. Vehicles carried equipment and supplies. This was not a small secret base. This was a city hidden underground. Keep walking, Captain, the soldier said. They walked for 20 minutes before reaching another elevator. This one took them even deeper. When the doors opened again, Lee Hyun stepped into a massive chamber that must have been carved from the moon's rock over many years. The chamber was so large that Lee Hyun could not see the far walls clearly. Inside the chamber were hundreds of people, officers in military uniforms, scientists in white coats, government officials. All of them were gathering in front of a raised platform where several important-looking people stood. Lee Hyun recognized Admiral Kang Do-yeon immediately. The old admiral looked tired but determined. Next to him stood a woman in a white coat, and a man in an expensive suit that marked him as someone very important in Earth's government. A young officer stood next to Lee Hyun. Her uniform showed her rank, Lieutenant Kim Sora. She looked nervous. Do you know what this is about? Lee Hyun whispered to her. No, sir, Kim Sora replied. I was teaching at the academy yesterday. Today they brought me here. The woman in the white coat stepped forward. Her name tag read Dr. Yoon Ji-soo. Thank you all for coming, Dr. Yoon said. Her voice was amplified so everyone could hear. What you are about to learn is humanity's greatest secret. The information shared here is classified at the highest level. If you speak of this to anyone not authorized, you will be arrested for treason. Do you all understand? Everyone nodded. Good, Dr. Yoon said. Then let me tell you the truth. For 150 years, humanity has been lying to the Galactic Council. Confused whispers filled the chamber. Dr. Yoon waited for silence. When we joined the Council 200 years ago, we quickly learned the truth. The Council would never treat us as equals. They would always see us as children, as primitives, as species they could control, so our leaders made a decision. If the Council would not give us equality, we would take it. But we had to be patient. We had to be smart. Dr. Yoon pressed a button and holographic images appeared in the air above the platform. The images showed ships. Thousands of ships. They were unlike any vessels in the human fleet. These ships were huge, angular, and covered in weapons. The Council believes humans have 500 military ships, Dr. Yoon said. They are correct. We do have 500 ships on the books in the official fleet. What they don't know is that we have been building a second fleet in secret. A fleet they never saw. A fleet they never imagined. The holographic images changed, showing shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, construction facilities floating in the Oort cloud at the edge of the solar system, massive factories built inside hollowed-out moons. We built slowly, Dr. Yoon continued. We used old mining ships to carry materials. We constructed the shipyards in places where Council satellites never looked. We developed new weapons that violate 17 different Council treaties. We did all of this while pretending to be the weak, obedient species they thought we were. Admiral Kang Do-yeon stepped forward. As of this morning, the true human fleet numbers 10,000 warships. We have 15,000 fighter craft. We have weapon systems that can destroy planets. Weapons that can turn enemy ships' computers against them. Weapons that the galaxy has never seen in 3,000 years of peace. Li Hyun felt his legs go weak. 10,000 warships? It was impossible. How could this be hidden for so long? Lieutenant Kim Sora raised her hand. Admiral, I don't understand. Why would we do this? Why prepare for war? I joined the military to protect peace. Admiral Kang looked at her with sad eyes. Lieutenant, 3 days ago, 12,000 humans died on Sejong 7. They begged the Council for help. The Council said no. This is not the first time. In the past 200 years, 14 human colonies have been attacked. 78,000 humans have died. The Council has helped us exactly 0 times. But surely we can negotiate, Kim Sora said. We tried, Admiral Kang said. For 200 years we tried. They will never see us as equals. They will never respect us, so we will make them respect us. The man in the expensive suit stepped forward. President Choi Min-ho, the leader of Earth's unified government. Yesterday I sent a message to the Galactic Council, President Choi said. I informed them that humanity is withdrawing from the Council. Human space is now sovereign territory. Any Council ship that enters our space without permission will be destroyed. Any attack on humans will be considered an act of war. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Li Hyun felt dizzy. They were breaking away from the Council? They were declaring independence? The Council laughed at my message, President Choi continued. Councillor Vexithara called it a tantrum. He has dispatched a punitive fleet of 200 ships to Earth. He intends to remind us of our place in the galaxy. President Choi smiled. It was not a kind smile. The Council's fleet will never reach Earth. As we speak, they are entering the Jupiter Defense Zone. They do not know that we have mined every approach to the inner solar system. They do not know that we have weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt. They think they are coming to punish children. They are about to learn that they are attacking wolves. The holographic display changed, showing real-time data. The Council fleet was approaching Jupiter. Then suddenly explosions bloomed across the display. Ships disappeared from the sensors. The Council fleet was being destroyed. The war has begun, President Choi said quietly, and we will win. Commander Shin Ji-won stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable and watched the stars. Her ship was 5 kilometers long, built from tungsten alloy and advanced composites. It had been constructed in secret over 30 years, hidden in a hollowed asteroid far beyond Pluto. The Council had never known it existed. Now the Indomitable was leading humanity's first strike. All ships report ready, Commander, said her tactical officer. Shin Ji-won looked at the display showing the fleet around her. 300 warships, all fresh from the secret shipyards, all equipped with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Their target was Nexus Station, the Council's largest military base. The station had stood for 1,000 years as a symbol of Council power. Admiral Kang sends his regards, the communications officer said. He wishes us victory and swift return. Thank him for me, Shin Ji-won said. She took a deep breath. Helm, initiate the jump. All ships, battle formation. We go in fast and hard. Space twisted around the Indomitable as the jump drive activated. In seconds, the human fleet appeared right on top of Nexus Station. The Council defenders barely had time to react. Alarms screamed across the station as sensors detected 300 unknown warships appearing from nowhere. Council ships scrambled to launch, but they were too slow. Fire all weapons, Shin Ji-won ordered. The Indomitable's main guns opened fire. Kinetic rounds accelerated to incredible speeds, crossing the distance to the station in seconds. Each round hit with the force of a nuclear bomb. The station's shields flared and died. More rounds punched through the hull, tearing massive holes in the structure. Around the Indomitable, the rest of the human fleet unleashed hell. Missiles swarmed toward Council ships. These were not normal missiles. They were smart weapons, controlled by advanced AI. When the Council ships tried to shoot them down, the missiles split apart into hundreds of smaller drones. The drones attached themselves to Council ships and began cutting through the hulls like insects eating wood. Enemy ships attempting to return fire, the tactical officer reported. Shin Ji-won watched as Council warships fired their weapons. The beams and projectiles were designed for peacekeeping and patrol. They had not fought a real war in 3,000 years. It showed. Human shields absorbed the attacks easily. Launch the cyber attack, Shin Ji-won ordered. From the Indomitable, Invisible signals reached out to the Council ships. Human hackers had studied Council technology for 200 years. They knew every weakness, every security flaw. Within minutes, 12 Council ships found their computers taken over. Their weapons turned on their own allies. Chaos spread through the Council fleet. On Nexus Station, the commander was a Zenthari named General Theknor. He watched his defenses crumble and could not understand what was happening. Human ships were supposed to be weak. Their technology was supposed to be inferior. The Council had made sure of that through restrictions and treaties. But these ships were nothing like the humans' vessels he had seen before. These were warships designed for one purpose, killing. "Get me reinforcements," General Theknor screamed. "Contact the Council. Tell them we are under attack." His communications officer looked at him with fear in his 4 eyes. "Sir, the humans are jamming all our long-range communications. We cannot reach anyone outside this system." General Theknor felt cold dread. The humans had planned this perfectly. They had isolated Nexus Station before attacking. No one would come to help. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, Nexus Station was a field of debris floating in space. Of the 200 Council ships that had been docked there, only 15 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. Commander Shin Ji-won stood on her bridge and looked at the destruction. She felt no joy, only grim satisfaction. This was necessary. The Council had to learn that humanity would not be pushed around anymore. "Send the message," she told her communications officer. "Broadcast it on all frequencies." The message was simple. "This is Commander Shin Ji-won of the Human Defense Fleet. Nexus Station has fallen. This is not an act of terrorism. This is an act of war. Humanity is no longer part of the Galactic Council. We claim the right to defend ourselves and our people. Any Council ship that enters human space will be destroyed. Any Council species that attacks human colonies will face retaliation. We do not want to destroy the galaxy. We only want to be free, but if the Council forces us to fight, we will burn everything to ash before we submit. Choose wisely." Across the galaxy, billions watched the broadcast. Species that had thought humans were weak primitives now saw the truth. The youngest species in the Council had just destroyed the Council's most powerful military base in 4 hours. On the Council homeworld, Councillor Vex Thara watched the broadcast 3 times. His hands shook with rage and fear. How had this happened? How had humans built such a fleet without anyone knowing? "We must respond," another councillor said. "If we do nothing, other species will think the Council is weak." "Send the fleet," Vexithara ordered. "All of it. Every ship we have. I want Earth reduced to glass. I want every human colony burned. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Council." But even as he gave the order, 3 Council species sent secret messages to their fleets. They told their ships to return home. They wanted no part of a war with humanity. 2 other species contacted Earth directly. They offered non-aggression pacts. They said they had always been uncomfortable with how the Council treated humans. Now they saw a chance to break free from Council control. The galaxy was fracturing. General Bai Taeyang led the ground forces attacking Council outposts along human borders. His troops wore advanced exosuits that made them stronger and faster. They carried weapons that could punch through any armor. They moved with precision and ruthless efficiency. At Outpost Delta 9, the Council defenders tried to surrender. General Bai accepted the surrender of those who laid down weapons immediately, but those who had fired on his troops first were not shown mercy. The Council had to learn that attacking humans came with consequences. Lieutenant Kim Sora was part of the assault on Delta 9. She saw human soldiers cut through Council defenses like they were paper. She saw the fear in alien eyes as they realized they could not win. Part of her felt sick. She had joined the military to protect people, not to invade and conquer. But then she remembered Sejong 7. She remembered 12,000 dead civilians. She remembered that the Council had refused to help. Her doubt turned to anger. After Delta 9 fell, Kim Sora walked through the captured base. She found a data terminal and accessed the Council records. What she found made her blood run cold. The Council had known about the raiders who attacked Sejong 7. They had known and done nothing. More than that, the Council had actually paid some species to raid human colonies to keep humans weak and afraid. Kim Sora realized the truth. The Council was not a benevolent government. It was an empire that ruled through fear and manipulation. Humanity's war was not aggression. It was liberation. She looked up at the sky and thought about all the battles to come. This war would be long and bloody, but it was necessary. The galaxy needed to change, and humanity would be the ones to change it. 6 months into the war, Captain Lee Hyun sat in a small craft floating through an asteroid field. Around him were 5 other soldiers, all wearing black stealth suits. They were deep in Council territory, far from any human support. If something went wrong, no one would come to save them. "Target is ahead," whispered Sergeant Oh Min-seo, checking her scanner. 200 kilometers. Lee Hyun looked through the window at the massive structure floating in space. It looked like a ring, 10 kilometers across, covered in strange machinery. Energy readings coming from it were enormous. "That's the Star Killer," Lieutenant Park Jun-ho said quietly. "If they finish building it, they can make our sun explode. Earth would be gone in minutes." Lee Hyun had seen the intelligence reports. The Council, desperate and losing the war, had started building a weapon that could destroy stars. They planned to use it on Sol, humanity's home star. Every human in the solar system would die. Billions of lives erased in one moment. "We have to destroy it," Lee Hyun said. "Check your equipment. We go in 30 minutes. The infiltration was difficult. Council security was tight around the Star Killer. But human intelligence was better. They knew the patrol schedules, the blind spots in the sensors, the security codes. Lee Hyun's team slipped through the defenses like ghosts. Inside the station, they found something that made Lee Hyun's stomach turn. The construction workers were slaves. Hundreds of aliens worked in terrible conditions, building the weapon that would kill billions. Among them, Lee Hyun saw humans. These were people captured from raided colonies years ago. The Council had been using human slaves while pretending to be civilized. "We need to free them," Sergeant Oh Min-seo said. "Our mission is to destroy the weapon," Park Jun-ho argued. Lee Hyun made a decision. "We do both. Plant the charges on the reactor. I'll get the slaves to the escape pods." The mission succeeded, but barely. They freed 300 slaves and destroyed the Star Killer, but Park Jun-ho died covering their escape. He was a good man, a friend. Lee Hyun would carry that loss forever. Back on Earth, Ambassador Park Mirai now held a new title, Minister of War. She sat in her office and reviewed reports. The news was good and bad. Humanity was winning the war. Council fleets were retreating. More species were declaring neutrality or switching sides. But the cost was terrible. Human casualties numbered in the hundreds of thousands. 15 more colonies had been attacked by desperate Council forces. The colony on New Busan was completely destroyed. 3 million people dead. Park Mirai had to make an impossible decision. Intelligence showed that the Zenthari homeworld was building weapons used to attack human colonies. The factories had to be destroyed. But the factories were in cities. Civilians would die. She signed the order. 12 hours later, human bombers struck 3 Zenthari industrial cities. The factories were destroyed. So were the neighborhoods around them. Casualty estimates ranged from 50,000 to 100,000 civilians. Park Mirai did not sleep that night. She kept seeing the reports, the images of burning cities. She told herself it was necessary that those factories had built the missiles that killed New Busan. But the faces of the dead haunted her dreams. Elder Thren was a Zenthari teacher who lived in the city of Cornash. He had never cared much about politics or war. He taught mathematics to children and lived a quiet life with his mate and their 3 offspring. Then the human bombers came. Thren was at work when the attack happened. He heard the explosions, saw the fire in the sky. By the time he reached his home, there was nothing left, just rubble and flames. He dug through the debris for hours, calling their names. He found their bodies in the basement, crushed by the collapsed building. Thren sat in the ruins of his life and felt nothing but emptiness. The Council had told everyone that humans were the monsters, the aggressors. But Thren had watched the news reports. He had seen the evidence that the Council hid. The Council had oppressed humans for 200 years. The Council had refused to help when human colonies were attacked. The Council had even paid raiders to hurt humans. This war was not humanity's fault. It was the Council's fault. They had created the monster they now fought. Thren looked at the ashes of his home and knew that his leaders had lied. The Council was not noble. The Council was not just. The Council had started this war through centuries of cruelty and arrogance. Now innocent people on both sides were paying the price. Admiral Kang Doyen stood in the command center and looked at the casualty reports. The numbers were staggering. Millions dead on both sides, entire fleets destroyed, colonies burned, cities reduced to rubble. He was 78 years old now, too old for war. But he could not stop. If humanity stopped fighting now, the Council would exterminate them. There could be no peace until the Council was broken completely. A message came through marked urgent. Admiral Kang opened it and felt a small measure of hope. The Vorketh, one of the major Council species, was asking for peace talks. They wanted to leave the war. They wanted to guarantee that humanity would not attack their worlds. "Send them our terms," Admiral Kang told his communications officer. "Non-aggression pact, trade agreements, recognition of human sovereignty. If they agree, we will not target Vorketh worlds." Within a day, the Vorketh agreed. They pulled their fleets back to their own space. Other species saw this and began reaching out to humanity with similar offers. The Council was falling apart. Lieutenant Kim Sora led a rescue mission to a labor camp where the Council had been keeping human prisoners. The camp was on a frozen moon, a terrible place where prisoners were worked to death mining valuable minerals. When Kim Sora's troops broke through the gates, they found 800 human prisoners. Most were half-starved, sick, and traumatized. They had been there for years, captured from early raids on colonies. The Council had used them as slaves while telling the galaxy that humans were treated fairly. Kim Sora helped an elderly man walk to the rescue ship. His name was Mr. Yang Daewoo. He had been a farmer on a colony called Hope's Landing. Raiders had attacked 15 years ago, killed his family, and taken him as a slave. "Is Earth still there?" Mr. Yang asked, his voice weak. "Are we winning?" "Yes," Kim Sora said. "We're winning. We're going to make sure this never happens to anyone again." Mr. Yang started crying. "I knew Earth wouldn't abandon us forever. I knew you would come." Kim Sora felt a surge of anger. The Council had done this. They had taken this man's life, his family, his freedom. They had done it to thousands of humans. And when humanity fought back, the Council called them monsters. No more, Kim Sora thought. The old order was finished. Humanity would build something better from the ashes. But first they had to finish the war. And the hardest battles were still ahead. Dr. Yoon Jisoo had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red as she stared at the data on her screen. The numbers made no sense at first, but now they painted a terrifying picture. "Are you absolutely certain?" Admiral Kang Do-yeon asked, standing behind her in the research lab. "Yes," Dr. Yoon said. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion. "The Council has built quantum resonators around every star in human space. We didn't detect them because they're using technology we've never seen before. If they activate these resonators, they'll destabilize our stars. Every sun in human territory will collapse or explode." Admiral Kang felt his blood turn to ice. "How many people would die?" "All of them," Dr. Yoon said simply. 23 billion humans across 147 systems. Gone in hours. "How long before they can activate it?" Dr. Yoon checked her calculations again. 72 hours. Maybe less. Admiral Kang immediately called an emergency meeting of all military commanders. Within an hour, every major officer was connected via secure communication. The mood was grim as Dr. Yoon explained the situation. "We have one option," Admiral Kang said. "We attack Xantheros Prime, the Council capital system. Their central command is there. If we can destroy the command center, we can prevent them from activating the resonators." "That's suicide," Commander Shinjiwan said. "Xantheros is the most defended system in the galaxy. They have 5,000 ships protecting it." "I know," Admiral Kang said. "But if we don't try, humanity dies. Every human. Everyone we know. Everyone we love. All dead." The decision was made quickly. Every available human ship would attack Xantheros Prime. It would be the largest battle in galactic history. Many would die, but it was the only chance humanity had. 60 hours later, the entire human fleet emerged from jump space at the edge of the Xantheros system. 5,000 human warships faced 5,000 Council defenders. The space between them crackled with tension. "All ships," Admiral Kang broadcast from his flagship. "Today we fight not for conquest, not for revenge, but for survival. The Council tried to exterminate us. They tried to kill every human man, woman, and child. We will show them that humanity does not die easily. We will show them that we are not prey. We are predators. And today we hunt." The fleets collided like two oceans crashing together. The battle was chaos on a scale never before seen. Thousands of ships fought and died in the first hour. Space itself seemed to catch fire as weapons discharged enough energy to light up the entire system. Commander Shin Ji-won led the Indomitable through the center of the battle. Her ship was a titan among giants, its weapons tearing through council ships like paper. But the council had numbers. For every council ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Hull breach on decks 12 through 15, her damage control officer reported. We've lost 30% of our shields. Keep firing, Shin Ji-won ordered. We have to break through to the planet. Meanwhile, Captain Lee Hyun was leading a different mission. While the fleets battled in space, he and a strike team of 50 soldiers were in stealth ships trying to sneak past the defenses to reach the planet's surface. Their target was the Council's central command building. The stealth ships were nearly invisible, but nearly was not good enough. Council sensors detected them. Fighters swarmed toward the strike team. We're not going to make it, Sergeant Oh Min-seo said as explosions rocked their ship. Yes, we are, Lee Hyun said. He grabbed the controls and pushed the ship into a desperate dive toward the planet. Behind them, half the strike team died as Council fighters destroyed their ships. But Lee Hyun's ship made it through. They crashed into a forest 5 kilometers from the command center. On Earth, President Choi Min-ho stood in the emergency command bunker and watched the battle through satellite feeds. The reports were terrible. Humanity was losing. The Council had too many ships, too many defenses. In another hour, the human fleet would be destroyed. But then a new alert came through. The quantum resonators were activating early. The Council was not waiting for the battle to end. They were going to kill every human in the galaxy right now. Dr. Yoon, President Choi said urgently. Do we have any way to stop it? Dr. Yoon's face appeared on the screen. She looked terrified. There is one option. We can overload our quantum communication network. It will create interference that might disrupt the resonators, but it will destroy the network completely. We'll lose all real-time communication across human space for years. Do it, President Choi ordered. Save our people. Dr. Yoon activated the overload. Across human space, every quantum communication relay began burning with energy. The interference spread outward, reaching the resonators. The resonators began to malfunction. Stars that had started to destabilize slowly returned to normal. Humanity was saved, but the cost was real. Without quantum communication, human ships in battle could not coordinate. Each ship fought alone. On the surface of Zentharos Prime, Captain Lee Hyun and his remaining team fought their way through Council security forces. They had lost 30 soldiers in the crash and the approach. Now only 20 remained. But they reached the command center. The building was a fortress, but human determination was stronger than any wall. They blasted through doors, fought past guards, and pushed deeper into the structure. Bodies lay in their wake, both human and alien. Finally, they reached the central control room. Counselor Vexithara was there, surrounded by guards. He looked at the humans with hatred in his eyes. You cannot win, Vexithara hissed. Even if you kill me, the Council will never surrender. Then you'll die knowing you failed, Lee Hyun said. The firefight was brutal and short. Vexithara died still cursing humanity. Lee Hyun disabled the resonator controls, ensuring they could never be used again. But he was badly wounded. Sergeant Oh Min-seo helped him out of the building as Council reinforcements arrived. Leave me, Lee Hyun said, coughing blood. Get the team out. No one gets left behind, Oh Min-seo said. She carried him to the extraction point. In space, the human fleet was breaking. Ships were dying by the dozens. But then something changed. The Council ships suddenly stopped fighting. Their commanders had received word. Counselor Vexithara was dead. The quantum resonators had failed. Their ultimate weapon was useless. Some Council ships surrendered immediately. Others tried to flee. The Battle of Zentharos Prime was over. Admiral Kang Doyan broadcast a message across all channels. Attention all Council forces. Your leadership is dead. Your superweapon has failed. You have lost. We offer you one chance to surrender with honor. Lay down your weapons and you will be treated fairly. Continue fighting and we will show no mercy. Across the galaxy, Council fleets began surrendering. The war was effectively over. Humanity had won, but the victory felt hollow. 2,000 human ships had been destroyed at Zentharos. Millions of soldiers had died. The quantum communication network was gone. Entire cities on both sides lay in ruins. President Choi Min-ho addressed the galaxy from Earth. The war is over. The Council is dissolved, but we take no joy in this victory. Too many have died. Too much has been destroyed. Now comes the hard part. Now we must build peace. The peace conference took place on a neutral station called Unity 1, built specifically for the negotiations. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered in a massive hall. Human soldiers stood guard outside, a reminder of who had won the war. President Choi Minho stood at the center podium and looked at the assembled aliens. Many looked at him with fear, some with hatred, a few with respect. The Galactic Council is no more, President Choi began. It died because it was built on lies. It claimed to bring peace, but it brought oppression. It claimed to protect all species, but it only protected the powerful. That ends today. He pressed a button and a holographic document appeared in the air for everyone to see. This is the charter for the Galactic Union. It guarantees equal rights for all species. It forbids slavery. It forbids unprovoked military action. It creates a real justice system where even the powerful can be held accountable. Every species will have representation. Every voice will be heard. A Zenthari representative stood up. His name was Ambassador Kesh, and he had been a minor official under the old council. And who enforces these rules, you? Will humanity be the new tyrant? President Choi nodded slowly. That is a fair question. Yes, humanity will maintain the largest military fleet. We won the war and we will not disarm completely. But the Union will have checks on our power. A council of all species will vote on major decisions. We cannot act alone. If we abuse our power, the Union can remove us from leadership. Pretty words, Ambassador Kesh said bitterly. But words are wind. How do we know you will keep them? Ambassador Park Mirai stood up. She was thinner than before the war, her face lined with stress and lack of sleep. You don't know. You have to trust us, just as we had to trust the Council when we joined 200 years ago. The difference is that we learned from the Council's mistakes. We will not repeat them. An elderly representative from the Vorketh species rose. Her name was Elder Serena. What about punishment for war crimes? Both sides committed atrocities. Will there be justice or only victor's justice? There will be real justice, Park Mirai said firmly. We are establishing tribunals to investigate war crimes from both sides. Any human who killed surrendered prisoners or targeted civilians without military necessity will face trial. Any council officer who committed atrocities will also face trial. This includes humans. We will not protect our own simply because we won. This statement shocked the room. The idea of victors punishing themselves was almost unheard of. Over the following months, the tribunals began their work. 17 human officers were convicted of war crimes and imprisoned. 83 council officers were also convicted. Some were imprisoned. A few who had committed the worst atrocities were executed. Ambassador Park Mirai personally oversaw the tribunals. It was hard work, emotionally draining. She had to watch evidence of terrible things done by both sides. But she believed it was necessary. If the Union was to be different from the Council, it had to start with justice. Lieutenant Kim Sora, now promoted to captain, became an advocate for former Council species. She traveled to worlds that had been devastated by the war and helped coordinate relief efforts. On the Zenthari homeworld, she worked to rebuild the cities that human bombers had destroyed. Many Zenthari hated her at first. Some tried to kill her. But Kim Sora kept working. She brought food, medicine, and construction materials. She helped rebuild schools and hospitals. Slowly, attitudes began to change. One day, Elder Thren approached her. He was the teacher who had lost his family in the bombing of Cornash. Kim Sora recognized him from intelligence reports. Why do you help us? Elder Thren asked. We were your enemies. Kim Sora looked at him with sad eyes. Because the war is over. Because you lost your family. Just like many humans lost their families. Because if we don't help each other heal, the hatred will never end. My government destroyed your city. I cannot change that. But I can help you rebuild. Elder Thren studied her face for a long moment. Then he said, I will help you. I will teach others that not all humans are monsters. That there is hope for peace. Together they worked to build understanding between their species. But not everyone wanted peace. Remnants of the old Council military had gone rogue. They called themselves the Restoration Fleet, and they conducted terrorist attacks on human colonies and Union facilities. They believed they could restart the war and restore the Council to power. Admiral Kang Doyen, now 80 years old and officially retired, was called back to service one more time. He organized the hunt for the Restoration Fleet. It took 2 years, but eventually every rogue ship was found and either captured or destroyed. The last battle took place near a dead star. The Restoration Fleet made its final stand with 60 ships. Admiral Kang led a Union fleet that included not just humans, but also Vorkath and other species who believed in the new order. Together they destroyed the rogue fleet. After the battle, Admiral Kang returned to Earth. He was done with war. He had fought his last battle. He retired to a small house by the ocean and spent his remaining years training young officers, teaching them that military power must always serve justice, never tyranny. One of his students was a young officer named Kang Jun. The boy was his son, born during the war. Kang Jun had grown up in a galaxy at war and dreamed of a galaxy at peace. Will there ever be true peace? Kang Jun asked his father one evening as they watched the sunset. Admiral Kang thought about the question. Not perfect peace. There will always be conflicts, always disagreements, but we can build something better than what came before. We can build a galaxy where species work together instead of dominating each other. That's worth fighting for. That's worth protecting. 5 years after the war ended, the Galactic Union held its first open elections. Every member species voted for representatives to the Union Parliament. The system was not perfect, but it was fair. Everyone had a voice. President Choi Min-ho chose not to run for re-election. He had led Earth through the worst war in human history. He had made terrible decisions that haunted him. It was time to let others lead. The new Union president was a Vorkath named Chancellor Hiven. He had been one of the first to sue for peace during the war. He believed in the Union's principles. At his inauguration, Chancellor Hiven said, "Humanity showed us that the old ways were broken. They showed us through fire and blood. Now they show us a better way through cooperation and justice. Let us prove them right. Let us build a galaxy worthy of all species." In the audience, Ambassador Park Mirai watched with tears in her eyes. The war had cost so much. So many dead. So many lives destroyed. But maybe, just maybe, it had been worth it. The galaxy was changing. The old tyranny was gone. Something new was being born. The question now was whether they could keep it alive. 50 years had passed since the war ended. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Admiral Kim Sora stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Unity, and looked at the mixed fleet assembled around her. Human ships flew alongside Xanthari vessels, Vorkath cruisers, and warships from a dozen other species. It was a sight that would have been impossible during the Council era. "Admiral, all ships report ready," her executive officer said. He was a young Xanthari named Officer Reth. His grandfather had fought against humans in the war. Now he served under a human commander, and he did so with pride. "Good," Admiral Sora said. She was 68 years old now. Her hair gray, her face lined with decades of hard decisions. But her eyes were still sharp, still determined. The Union faced a new threat. Deep scans of the galactic rim had detected something ancient waking up. A species that had been dormant for millions of years. Early contact attempts had failed. The ancient species attacked every ship that approached. They were hostile, powerful, and spreading outward from the rim. They called themselves the Consumed. They had no interest in diplomacy or peace. They wanted only to destroy other intelligent life. The Union had tried everything. Diplomacy failed. Offers of peace were ignored. The Consumed could not be reasoned with. They had to be stopped. "Begin the jump," Admiral Sora ordered. "All ships, stay in formation. We're going to meet the enemy at the threshold system." The fleet jumped through space, emerging at the edge of an ancient system. Ahead of them, sensors detected 1,000 consumed vessels. The ships were organic, grown rather than built. They pulsed with strange energy. Ambassador Kang Jun was aboard the Unity as the Union's diplomatic observer. He was 50 years old, the son of the legendary Admiral Kang Doyen. His father had died 10 years ago, peacefully in his sleep. Kang Jun had followed his father's path, but as a diplomat rather than a warrior. "Are you certain diplomacy is impossible?" Kang Jun asked Admiral Sora. "We've tried for 5 years," Admiral Sora said gently. "They don't communicate. They only attack. I wish there was another way." Kang Jun nodded sadly. He had devoted his life to building peace between species. But some enemies could not be negotiated with. Some threats had to be met with force. The battle began. The Union fleet moved with practiced precision. Ships that had once been enemies now fought as brothers. Human tactics mixed with Vorkath strategies and Xanthari discipline. The Union had learned to combine the strengths of all species. The Consumed were powerful, but the Union was ready. The battle was hard, lasting for hours. Ships were lost on both sides. But slowly, the Union fleet pushed forward. The Consumed began to retreat. They're falling back to the rim. The tactical officer reported. Do we pursue? Officer Reth asked. Admiral Sora thought carefully. No, we've pushed them back. That's enough for now. We'll establish a defensive line here. If they return, we'll be ready. After the battle, Admiral Sora met with the fleet commanders. Representatives from every species gathered in the Unity's conference room. They discussed strategy, shared intelligence, and planned future operations. There was no squabbling over resources or status. Everyone worked together. This was the union that humanity had fought to create. Not perfect, but better, much better. On Earth, a historian named Dr. Lee Sunmi published her comprehensive account of the war. It was called The Breaking: How Humanity Saved the Galaxy by Nearly Destroying It. The book was controversial because it did not paint humans as pure heroes. It showed the atrocities, the mistakes, the terrible costs. But it also showed the truth. The Council had been corrupt and oppressive. Humanity had fought for freedom, not just for themselves, but for all species. The war had been terrible, but necessary. Without it, the galaxy would still be under the Council's control. Dr. Lee interviewed survivors from both sides. She spoke with Elder Thren, now 90 years old, who had become a voice for reconciliation. She spoke with former soldiers who still had nightmares about the war. She spoke with young people born after the war who took the Union for granted. We must never forget the cost, Dr. Lee wrote in the book's conclusion. Millions died so that billions could live free. Their sacrifice demands that we make the Union work. If we fail, their deaths were meaningless. The book became required reading in Union schools. Young people of all species learned the true history, the good and the bad. One night, Admiral Sora could not sleep. She walked through the quiet corridors of the Unity until she reached the Memorial Hall. The room contained holographic displays showing every human ship lost in the war. Thousands of ships, millions of lives. She found herself standing in front of one display in particular. It showed the New Dawn, Captain Lee Hyun's old ship. Lee Hyun had survived the war but died 20 years ago, from wounds that never fully healed. He had been her friend. We did it, Hyun, Admiral Sora whispered to the display. We built something better. I hope you can see it wherever you are. A voice spoke from the shadows. He would be proud. Admiral Sora turned and saw an old woman in civilian clothes. It took her a moment to recognize Ambassador Park Mirai. The former Minister of War was 85 years old and had retired from public life decades ago. Ambassador, Admiral Sora said with surprise. What are you doing here? I heard about the battle, Park Mirai said. I wanted to see the fleet before I die. I wanted to see if what we built survived. And? Admiral Sora asked. Park Mirai smiled, tears in her eyes. It's more beautiful than I ever dreamed. Ships from every species fighting together. Not because they're forced to, but because they choose to. That's what we fought for. The two women stood together in silence, remembering the past and hoping for the future. Somewhere deep in space, something ancient stirred. An intelligence that had existed for eons, watching civilizations rise and fall. It called itself the Witness. It had no physical form, existing only as pure consciousness spread across quantum dimensions. The Witness had observed the Galactic Council for 3,000 years. It had seen the Council's corruption and oppression. It had predicted the Council would eventually collapse from within. But then humanity arrived, young, aggressive, and stubborn. The Witness had been curious to see what would happen. The war had surprised even the Witness. Humanity had not just broken the Council, they had built something better from the ruins. The Witness accessed its ancient records, comparing the Union to thousands of previous civilizations. Most civilizations that achieved galactic unity did so through conquest and domination. The conquered species eventually rebelled and the cycle repeated. But the Union was different. It was built on voluntary cooperation, on equality, on justice. The Witness concluded that humanity had done something remarkable. They had been the first in this galaxy to forge true unity from diversity. The first to build peace not on fear but on mutual respect. Interesting, the Witness murmured to itself. Perhaps this time they will survive what comes next. Admiral Sora addressed the Union fleet before they returned home. She stood on the bridge of the Unity, her image broadcast to every ship. Today we faced a new enemy and we prevailed. Not because humans are superior, not because any species is better than others. We won because we worked together, because we combined our strengths and covered each other's weaknesses. Our ancestors fought a terrible war to make this possible. They showed the galaxy that the old ways were broken. Now we must show the galaxy that the new way works. She paused, looking at the faces on the screens. Humans, Zenthari, Vorketh, and dozens of other species, all wearing the same Union uniform, all serving the same cause. Our ancestors declared war, and the galaxy learned that the old peace was over forever. That peace was built on oppression and fear. It deserved to die. We have built something better. A peace based on freedom and justice, a peace worth defending. So we will stand watch. We will protect what we have built, not just for ourselves, but for all species, for all time. That is our duty. That is our honor. That is our eternal vigil. The fleet erupted in cheers, not just from humans, but from every species represented. They believed in the Union. They believed in the dream that humanity had fought for. The ships began their journey home, back to a galaxy that was healing, growing, and building toward a brighter future. The scars of the war remained, but they were fading. New generations were being born who knew only the Union, not the Council. And in the darkness beyond the rim, the consumed waited and watched. But they would find the Union ready. Because humanity had learned a hard lesson, peace was not achieved by being weak. Peace was maintained by being strong enough to protect it. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly the point.